What if the healthiest breakfast you've trusted for years has been hiding one small mistake all along? Millions of adults over 60 eat eggs every morning, believing they're doing exactly what their body needs. Yet many still wonder why their cholesterol, blood sugar, or energy never improves the way they hoped. Surprisingly, the egg itself usually isn't the reason. The real problem often begins before your very first bite, and once you see it, you'll never look at your morning eggs the same way again. Today, you'll discover 7 common egg mistakes that quietly reduce the benefits of an otherwise healthy breakfast. The surprising part is that fixing these mistakes usually doesn't mean giving up eggs at all. In fact, one simple habit may matter far more than buying expensive organic or free-range eggs. But the first mistake catches most older adults completely off guard because it feels like the healthier choice. Before we go any further, I want you to answer one question in the comments right now. Do you usually eat your eggs boiled, fried, scrambled, or as an omelet? Comment your answer before watching the rest, because you may be surprised by what you learn. Here's what surprised many nutrition researchers after studying breakfast habits over many years. The biggest differences often weren't explained by the eggs themselves, but by the small routines repeated around them every single morning. That's why 2 people can eat nearly identical eggs and still experience very different long-term health outcomes. One overlooked habit repeated hundreds of times each year can quietly influence your breakfast more than the egg itself. Suddenly, years of confusing headlines about eggs begin making much more sense because the real story was never only about eggs. And the very first mistake is especially surprising because millions of people believe it makes their breakfast healthier. The clue isn't the type of egg you buy, the brand on the carton, or even where it came from. It all begins the moment your egg touches the pan. And that simple habit may surprise you more than anything else in today's video. Mistake number 1 begins the very second your egg touches the pan, not when it reaches your plate. And here's the surprise. The mistake isn't eating eggs at all. It's believing every cooking method creates the same breakfast. Think about a slice of bread. Fresh toast and burnt toast start at exactly the same, but nobody expects them to taste or turn out the same. Eggs deserve that same attention, yet most people never stop to think about it. Researchers have long been interested in how everyday cooking habits can influence the overall quality of a meal, not just the foods themselves. The real lesson isn't that one cooking method is perfect. It's that small choices made every morning quietly add up over time. Many older adults automatically reach for extra butter or generous amounts of oil simply because it's the way they've always prepared eggs. But every extra spoonful changes the meal before the first bite is even taken. Sometimes improving breakfast isn't about buying different foods. It's about changing one familiar habit in the kitchen. Gently cooked eggs, like boiled, poached, or softly scrambled eggs, can provide satisfying protein while often requiring much less added fat. That doesn't mean you must never enjoy fried eggs again. It simply means letting the egg remain the star of the breakfast instead of surrounding it with ingredients it may not actually need. One small improvement repeated hundreds of mornings each year usually matters more than one perfect breakfast, followed by weeks of old routines. But here's where almost everyone gets surprised. Even if you cook your eggs beautifully, another common habit sitting right beside them can quietly undo much of that smart decision. Before I show you what it is, answer this question in the comments. What usually sits next to your eggs? Bacon, sausage, white toast, potatoes, fruit, vegetables, or something else? Be honest, because your answer may reveal the next mistake before I even explain it. Most people spend years blaming the eggs, while the real problem has been sitting beside them all along. And once you see this pattern, you'll never look at a traditional breakfast plate the same way again. Mistake number 2 isn't hiding inside the egg, it's hiding in everything that usually surrounds it. Look at a typical breakfast plate for just a moment. Which food do you think gets blamed first when someone worries about heart health or blood sugar? For most people, the answer is always the eggs. But here's the part that surprises many nutrition experts. The egg didn't create that breakfast. It simply became one piece of a much bigger picture. That's why researchers often study overall eating patterns, instead of judging one single food by itself. Imagine placing a clean white shirt under a heavy winter coat. People notice the coat first, not the shirt underneath. Eggs are often treated the same way. They receive the blame while the rest of the breakfast quietly escapes attention. Sometimes adding vegetables, fruit, beans, or whole grains beside your eggs may improve the overall balance of the meal more than removing the eggs themselves. The smartest breakfast upgrade often isn't taking something away. It is choosing better companions for the foods you already enjoy. But even after people improve what's on their plate, another habit often slips through unnoticed. And this next mistake is so automatic that many people do it before they've even tasted their first bite. It starts the moment your hand reaches for the salt shaker. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually tasted your eggs before adding salt? Or do you season them first simply because that's become part of your routine? Here's a surprising discovery. Many breakfast foods, including bacon, sausage, cheese, bread, and packaged seasonings, already contribute sodium before you add anything yourself. That means the extra salt often isn't improving the meal, it's simply repeating yesterday's habit. For many older adults watching their blood pressure or heart health, tasting first and seasoning second can be one simple change worth trying. Sometimes the easiest habit to improve isn't removing a favorite food, it's pausing for just a few seconds before reaching for the salt. But the next mistake surprises almost everyone because it happens while your eggs are still cooking, and many people believe they're actually making them better. Mistake number 5 happens while your eggs are still in the pan, and most people believe they're actually improving them. Many older adults think cooking eggs longer automatically makes them better or safer. But here's something many people never realize until they try it themselves. Eggs don't become more enjoyable simply because they stay on the heat longer. Think about making a cup of tea. Leave the tea bag in too long and the flavor changes, even though it's still the same tea. Eggs can be surprisingly similar. Sometimes knowing when to stop cooking is just as important as knowing how to start. The goal isn't chasing the perfect egg, it's avoiding the habit of overcooking simply because that's how it's always been done. Softly scrambled eggs, gently cooked omelets, or properly boiled eggs often create a breakfast that's more pleasant to eat without becoming dry and rubbery. It's another reminder that tiny kitchen habits, repeated hundreds of mornings each year, can quietly shape your overall routine. But even the best cooking habit can be undone before the eggs ever make it into your shopping cart. Mistake number 6 begins in the grocery store, where attractive packaging often makes decisions before we do. Words like natural, farm fresh, high protein, and made with real ingredients are designed to catch your attention within seconds. But here's what many shoppers never notice until they look closer. The front of the package is meant to sell the product. The nutrition facts panel is meant to explain what's actually inside. Before believing the claims on the front, check the serving size first because every other number depends on that one detail. Then look at sodium and saturated fat, especially in ready-made egg products or breakfast foods that may contain much more than you expected. One quick look at the back label often tells a very different story than the promises printed on the front. By now, you've probably noticed a pattern connecting every mistake we've discussed today. The egg was almost never the real problem. The everyday habits surrounding it quietly shape the entire breakfast, and the final lesson brings all 6 mistakes together into one simple morning routine that could completely change the way you think about eating eggs after 60.
Here's the biggest surprise of today's video. Eggs were rarely the problem in the first place. The habits surrounding them have been shaping your breakfast far more than most people ever imagine. So tomorrow morning, before you change what's on your plate, try changing the routine that surrounds it. Imagine gently cooking your eggs, pairing them with healthier foods, tasting them before reaching for the salt, and making smarter choices at the grocery store. None of those habits are dramatic by themselves, but together they create a completely different breakfast. That's the real lesson many people miss. Better health rarely comes from one perfect food. It grows from small decisions repeated every single morning. Instead of asking, are eggs good or bad? Ask yourself, does my entire breakfast support the life I want to live? That one question can quietly guide better choices long after today's video ends. And remember, your body doesn't judge one breakfast. It responds to the patterns you repeat week after week and year after year. That's why consistency almost always beats chasing the newest health trend.
If your healthcare professional has recommended a specific eating plan for diabetes, kidney disease, heart disease, or another condition, let these habits support that personalized guidance, not replace it. The strongest breakfast routine is the one that's both nutritious and realistic enough to follow every day. Now picture yourself a month from today, preparing breakfast without second-guessing every choice because these healthier habits have simply become part of your morning. That's when healthy eating stops feeling like hard work and starts feeling completely natural. Think back to the question we asked at the very beginning of this video. Do eggs suddenly become dangerous after 60? The answer is far more encouraging than most people expect. Eggs usually aren't the enemy. The everyday habits around them often make the biggest difference. Before you leave, make one commitment in the comments. Tell everyone the one egg habit you'll change starting tomorrow morning. Writing it down makes it much more likely you'll actually follow through. And if you want more evidence-based health videos that help adults over 60 avoid common daily mistakes, subscribe now because the next small habit you discover could be the one that changes your health the most.